point. Those are the points. Yeah, that the group one discussed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a very valuable observation. If you just look, I opened these graphs you had mentioned. So on aggregate, you see there's small difference in terms of GDP and labor, as you rightly said, whereas GHG emissions decrease quite significantly, right? The interest now, I had mentioned this to the other group. Okay, this is the aggregate. That is already good because it's a small positive, but what is of interest is more of these industrial shifts. No, that's why we call a structural change. In economics, is structural change means you shift between sectors. No, so here, as you rightly observed, labor increases quite significantly in agriculture, and the question is why. No, mostly, yes, you're right. Some workers from those declining may return to agriculture. However, the majority will be indirect jobs. What indirect jobs means? Because value added increases, because income increases, as well as the supplying industries increase. The majority of the labor force here, this is the case of Ghana, is still in agriculture. So the impact on agricultural workers, although there's a small increase in GDP, a small increase in employment, in absolute terms, it's quite significant. So here you talk about 15,000 people or more, close to 20,000 people that increasingly works in agriculture. No, if you look at the relative difference, where's the relative difference? The relative difference is very small, you see, because in total there are a lot of agricultural workers in Ghana. So the relative difference is different from the absolute difference. No? But this is the beauty of the tool on how you can use it to analyze your results in detail and then shape policies, because still, if you are to produce 100% solar power in your country, the supplying industries in agriculture, which may also provide and include land allocation for the installation of these, will also imply agricultural workers or owners. So that is the reason why agriculture employment goes up. Let me hand over to the second group. If you could just highlight one or two elements of the discussion, or what struck you, or what you found of interest. Just anything if you wish. If you don't want to comment, you don't need to. There's no need, just in case. Yeah.
Agriculture.
Yeah, comments are also welcome.
Yeah, it's a comment about agriculture and solar. Mostly agriculture, usually a huge amount of their capital cost is for irrigating and irrigating machines. So it either works on the fossil fuel, diesel, or it works on the traditional electricity. In both ways, it will cost them so much for that. And even to secure the fossil fuel to their farms. But if they have solar panels and things like that, their capital cost would be so reduced in a way that it would enhance their work, of course.
Yeah, that's very interesting observation. Indeed, if we had time to work and better understand the model, the agricultural industry uses electricity, as you rightly said, as an input in their production. No, so now you're rightly saying that because of PV is cheaper than the diesel generators for irrigation and pumping, maybe that may be the explanation why agriculture jobs are increasing, because it becomes cheaper to produce in agriculture, so it will increase employment in that sector. No, so the advantages in the supply chain makes what we call in economics a forward link. No, it's not a backward link, but agriculture uses PV electricity in the production, notably the production through irrigation. And so that may be one of the reasons why labor is increasing there as well. Yeah, it's a good observation. And if we had time, we could now go back to the original sheet, the Excel sheet where you have all the inputs from all the industries to see the reason for this link. And this is another beauty of the model. It's transparent. No, it's not a black box where someone comes and tells you, GDP decreases or increases, but you can always find the reason for why it is happening. Yeah. Let me move to the last group to invite any comments, observations you may have.
We actually looked at the solar power. So basically, I think it's a similar observation to what Group 1 has mentioned, but it's not so defined or intense. Like, for example, we found that by 2035, there will be like a 2% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions, but that will not, at the same time, for the gross value added and the labor, it will be like less than 1% increase. So that's our observation.
Yeah, I think this is a good observation, notably coming back to the previous sessions. Here we talk about a win-win situation, yeah, where the structural change allows for reduction in CO2 emissions, which we call a decoupling. And in fact, it's an absolute decoupling because GDP grows while GHG decreases. No, it's not a relative decoupling where it becomes less carbon intense. That is what we call a relative decoupling. But here we talk about an absolute decoupling, which is needed to achieve economic growth at the same time as GHG emission reductions. No? And here, key question is notably for, I think, the Gulf states, which are obviously looking into alternative economic diversification scenarios to come up with a strategy that allows them to phase out oil and gas in the long term while increasing economic output. Because if someone comes to you and tells you, look, your salary, your income, which is basically GDP, will be cut by 3, 4, 5% over the years, obviously you would not engage. No? So these tools, they help you to model different policy scenarios to see whether there's a positive development path which allows for GHG decoupling while growing the economy at the same time. So thank you very much for your attention. I think the point here is not really to use these results. These are all just scenarios, no? But the idea here is that in your own country, if you're interested, you could engage in such a process of developing a model which may help you in testing different alternative scenarios and use it for policy making to find a scenario that increases and maximizes employment creation while reducing the negative impacts of such a transition. So thank you very much for your attention and wish you bon appetit and a good evening. I hand over to Kusum.
Okay, so I think we had a long evening, didn't plan for close at 5, but it's good that at least we close within the time limits. And we meet tomorrow, 9 o'clock in morning as our last day for this workshop. So have a nice evening, enjoy Bangkok, and see you tomorrow.